Hey everyone, I'm Robin, and trust me, this story still feels unreal even when I say it out loud. I'm 27. Well, I was 27 when this all started, and life hasn't exactly been smooth. I work as a marketing assistant. It's not some glamorous, high-paying dream job, but it's honest work. Pays the bills, or at least most of them. At the time, I was still living with my parents, my mom Susan, my dad Mark, and my younger brother Tom. Our house wasn't great. It was cramped, falling apart in places, and constantly had this weird smell that never really went away. But still, it was home. Or at least I thought it was. The thing is, I wasn't just living there, I was contributing. A lot. I paid a significant portion of the bills, bought groceries regularly, and whenever something broke, I was the one fixing it or paying to get it fixed. You'd think that would earn me at least a little respect, right? Yeah, not even close. Every time I walked into a room, it felt like I was stepping into a judgment zone. My mom, Susan especially, had this way of making me feel small without even raising her voice. "Robin, when are you going to get a real job?" She'd say, like it was her favorite line. A real job? I mean, what does that even mean? I worked hard. Marketing isn't easy. It takes time, effort, and constant pressure to perform. But in her eyes, if I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer, then it didn't count. And every time I tried to defend myself, she'd just shut me down. "If it was a real job, you'd have your own place by now." Yeah. Okay, Mom. And then there was Tom, my 26-year-old brother. We've never really gotten along. He's got this smug, self-satisfied attitude, always acting like he's better than me. Why? Because he has more followers on social media or some nonsense like that. Meanwhile, he barely lifted a finger around the house. Guess who picked up the slack? Yeah, me. But did anyone acknowledge that? Of course not. Still, despite everything, my 28th birthday was coming up, and I was actually looking forward to it. I know, sounds ridiculous, right? But I thought maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. I'd even saved up and bought myself a really nice cake from this fancy bakery downtown. I pictured something simple, just the four of us sitting together, maybe laughing, maybe acting like a normal family for once. Nothing big, nothing extravagant, just something. A few days before my birthday, I decided to bring it up. I sat down with my mom and dad in the living room, trying to keep my expectations low. "Hey, I was thinking maybe we could do something for my birthday this weekend," I said carefully. "Nothing big. Just hang out. Maybe have some cake." My mom didn't even look up from her magazine. "We'll see, Robin. We might have plans." Plans? On my birthday? That should have been my first clue. But I didn't want to believe it. I mean, I'd been living there my whole life, helping out, doing my part. Why wouldn't I be included? Fast forward to my birthday. I woke up feeling hopeful. Work was actually great that day. My coworkers wished me happy birthday. Some even got me coffee. And for a few hours I felt seen, appreciated. I even treated myself to a new outfit on the way home. For the first time in a while, things felt like they might actually be okay. But the moment I pulled into the driveway, that feeling shattered. My stuff was everywhere. Boxes, bags, clothes, books, all of it dumped on the front lawn like garbage. For a second, I just sat there in the car, staring, trying to process what I was seeing. Then my heart started racing. I jumped out and rushed toward the house. And that's when I saw them. My mom, my dad, and Tom, just standing there on the porch, waiting, watching me. It felt like some kind of twisted family meeting. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my best effort to stay calm. My mom stepped forward, her expression completely cold. "Robin, it's time for you to move out. You're not welcome here anymore." I just froze. Move out? On my birthday? I honestly thought it had to be a joke. A horrible, cruel joke. I turned to my dad, waiting for him to step in, to say something, anything, but he couldn't even look at me. His hands were shoved in his pockets, his eyes fixed on the ground. That hurt more than anything. "But it's my birthday," I said, my voice cracking. "Where am I supposed to go?" And I hated how desperate I sounded. Then Tom spoke up. That smug grin on his face made my blood boil. Maybe you should have thought about that before being such a burden all these years. A burden? I was the one paying the bills, buying food, keeping that crappy house from falling apart. How was I the burden? I turned to my mom, searching her face, hoping, no, begging, for some kind of explanation. Something that made sense. Something that didn't make this feel like a complete betrayal. But there was nothing. It wasn't enough, she said flatly, her voice sharp like a slap. We need the space. And frankly, you need to grow up. That was it. No empathy. No hesitation. No second chances. Just cold, emotionless indifference. I felt tears sting my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not in front of them. Not where they could see me break. Can I at least get my things? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They're already packed, my mom replied, gesturing toward the boxes on the lawn like it was nothing, like I was nothing. You should go now. And just like that, it was over. Happy birthday to me. I started loading the boxes into my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip anything. It all felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to demand how they could do this to me. But I didn't. I just kept moving. One box after another, focusing on the motion, trying to keep myself from falling apart completely. When I finally finished, I stood there for a moment, staring at the house, at them, hoping stupidly that something would change. That one of them would say, wait, that they'd realize how messed up this was. Why today? I asked, my voice trembling. Why on my birthday? My mom didn't even blink. Consider it our gift to you, she said. Independence. That was the last thing she ever said to me before I left. On what should have been a day of celebration, I drove away from the only home I'd ever known. Hey, everyone, no plan, Robin, no destination, and trust me, no idea what still feels next. Unreal. Even I ended up at a cheap motel. I'm 27 with a flickering neon sign. Well, I was 27 when this all smelled like years of neglect. Life hasn't exactly been smooth. I spent my birthday alone. I work as a surrounded by half-open boxes. It's not and some glamorous life I didn't even recognize anymore. But it's honest work. I lay on the bed, pays the bills, staring at the ceiling, most of them, replaying at the time, everything I was still living again. With my parents. How could they do this? My mom Susan, my dad Mark, the people who were and my younger brother Tom. Our my own family great. Be so cramped. That falling apart in places, somewhere between exhaustion and had this weird smell that I made a promise to myself. But still, I would never rely on them again, or at least no matter how hard things got. The thing is, I was on my own. I wasn't just living there. The next few days felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I paid a significant portion of the bills, though that part regularly. It was the realization that the people I thought I was the one fixing it or paying to get it never really did. You'd think that would earn more than anything. A little respect. I spent that first night in that not even hotel trying to make sense of it all. Every time I walked into a room, but there was no logic to hold on to. It felt like I was stepping into a judgment explanation that made it hurt less. My mom, Susan especially, so the next morning I did the only thing I could without even raising my voice. I threw myself into work. Robin, when are you going to get a real job? What else was I supposed to do? I couldn't sit around like feeling sorry for myself. A real job. I had bills to pay. I mean, what does that even mean? To figure out where I was going to live. Marketing isn't easy, and worked. It takes time. I was at the office early, pressure to perform. Stayed late, but in her eyes, if I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer, and anything that kept my mind from drifting back to that front lawn. And every time I tried to defend myself, my boss, Hannah, she just shut me down. Noticed pretty quickly if it was a real job, you'd have your own place. Nothing gets past her. One evening. Long after most people had gone home, my 26-year-old brother. She found me still never really gotten along. Hunched over my laptop. He's got this like smug, a machine running on self-satisfied attitude. Robin, can we talk? Acting like he's better than me. Leaning casually because he has more followers on social media or some judging by the way her expression shifted. Meanwhile, he barely lifted a finger around the house. You're going to work yourself into the ground at this rate. Me, she said gently. But did anyone acknowledge what's going on? I hesitated. Still, I didn't want to get into it. Despite everything, she was my 28th birthday was coming up, but and I was actually looking forward to it. Everything just I know sounds ridiculous, right? I told her about but my I thought family, maybe about my birthday. This year how they kicked me out like I'd even saved up and bought myself a really nice cake from this fancy bakery downtown. The feeling of being completely alone. Something simple. Hannah didn't just interrupt. The four of us sitting together, just maybe laughing, really maybe acting like a normal family honestly, for once. That alone meant more than anything my family had ever done. When I finally finished, a few days before my let out a quiet sigh, I decided to bring it up. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I sat down with my mom and dad in the living room, trying to keep my expectations low. I didn't think it was appropriate. I was thinking maybe we could do something for my birthday this weekend. She shook her head slightly. I said carefully, Robin, nothing big, she said. Just hang out. Her tone firm but kind. Maybe have some cake. You don't have to go through something like this alone. Her magazine. Then she said something I never expected. We might have plans. I have a spare room at my place. On my birthday. It's nothing fancy. That should have been my first clue. You're welcome to stay there. I didn't want to figure things out. I mean, I'd been living there my whole life, helping out, doing my part. Are you serious? Why wouldn't I be included? Half expecting her to laugh it off or take it back. I woke up feeling hopeful. She just smiled and nodded. Work was actually great that day. I know what it's like to be in a tough spot. Happy birthday. Don't worry about it. Some even got me coffee. For a second, for a few hours, I felt the relief hit me so hard it almost brought me to tears. I even treated myself to a new outfit. But somehow, on the way home, I held it together. For the first time in a while. Thank you. Things felt like they might actually be okay. But the moment I repay you into the driveway, I said, that still trying to process what she just offered. Was everywhere. Hannah waved me off immediately. Bags. Don't even mention it. Books. She said, all of it dumped. You've been killing it at work. Garbage. And I'd hate to see you burn out. I just sat there in the car. Promise me you'll take care of yourself. Trying to process like what I was seeing. I had somewhere to go. My heart started racing. It wasn't home. I jumped out and rushed toward the house. The next day, and that's when I packed up my things from the motel and moved into Hannah's guest room. Just standing there on the porch, waiting. A bed, watching a dresser, and a little window. Like some kind of twisted family meeting. Warm and quiet. What's going on? And honestly, I asked. That was more than I could have shaking despite my best effort to stay calm. My mom sat on the edge of the bed, her expression completely cold, trying to process everything that had happened. I felt a little safer anymore, a little more stable. I just froze, but there was still this emptiness in my chest. I honestly thought something had to be ripped out of me. A horrible, everything I thought I knew about my life. I turned to my dad, my family, waiting for him to step in. Still, I didn't let myself sit in that feeling for too long. But he couldn't even look at me. Instead, his hands were shoved what I'd been doing best lately. His eyes were fixed on the ground. And somehow I pushed myself more than anything. Hannah hadn't been kidding when she said she'd expect more from me. I said, my voice cracking. Where am I supposed to go? If anything, I appreciated how desperate I kept my mind busy. Then Tom kept me from overthinking. That smug grin on his face started picking up freelance gigs. Maybe you should have thought about that. My thinking was being such a more money all these years, the faster I could stand on my own 2 feet. I was the one paying the bills. It wasn't easy. Buying food. There were nights I stayed up that crappy house from falling apart. How was I the staring at my screen? I turned to my mom, forcing myself to finish her face while my mind kept drifting back to my family for some kind of explanation. Maybe they'll call. That made sense. Maybe they'll apologize. Something that didn't make this feel like a complete betrayal. But no, there was nothing. It wasn't enough. Complete, she said flatly, her voice sharp like a slap. During all of this, we need the space. My best friend Mike turned out to be an absolute lifesaver. That was it. We'd been close since college. No hesitation. Even though we didn't live in the same city anymore, just stayed in touch all the time. Emotionless indifference. When I told him what happened, I felt tears sting my eyes. I can't believe they did that to you. He said in front of calls. Not you where deserve they could see so much better. Can I at least get my things? But hearing it still hurt. Yeah. My voice barely above a whisper. I muttered. They're already back in my chair. My mom replied. It is what it is. Gesturing toward the boxes on the lawn like it was nothing. Mike being Mike, I couldn't stay serious for too long. You should go now. You know what would really piss them off? It was over. He said with a laugh. Happy birthday to me. I started already knowing he was about to say something ridiculous. My hands shaking so badly I could barely grip anything. It all felt surreal in their faces, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. I wanted to scream. The idea stuck with me. I wanted to demand how they could do this to me. Maybe a little. I just kept moving. I wanted to prove after another focusing on the motion, trying to keep myself from falling on my own completely. So that became my focus. I stood there for a moment, save more, staring at the house. And eventually at them, get out of Hannah's guest room and into a place that was truly mine. That one of them would over the next few months, things started to change. They'd realize how my designs began catching the attention of bigger clients. The freelance work picked up. Why on my birthday? For the first time in my life, I was making real money. Consider more than I ever had before. She said. Every late nights, every all-nighter. That was the last thing she ever said to me before I left. On what should have been a day of celebration, I drove away from the only home I'd ever known. There was no plan, no destination, and slowly no idea still feels unreal. I was rebuilding. I ended up at a cheap motel. One project, kind of a flickering neon sign. 27 cars all smelled like for the first time. Life hasn't exactly my birthday alone. Maybe I didn't surrounded by half-open boxes. It's not the glamorous life. I didn't even probably always would. Honest work. I lay on the paving something important, staring at the ceiling. Most of them. I wasn't replaying everything. I was still living with my parents. How could they do that? Susan, how could the people who were my younger brother Tom? One afternoon, my own family called me into her office. She had this huge grin somewhere between exhaustion and kind that immediately makes you nervous. I made a promise when I said at the same time. I would never rely on them again. She said, no matter how hard things got. The thing is, I was on my own just living there. The next few days was in Eyebrow. I'd been hit by a truck. I paid a significant portion of the bill. Lead designer sound regularly. It was the realization with a raise I thought I was the one fixing it or paying to get it. Never really stared at her. You'd think that would earn more than a little respect. I blurted out first night in that not even close. Serious. Every time I walked into a room, there was no logic. It felt like I was stepping into a doing incredible work. My mom and Susan, especially the next morning, I did the only thing I could pass even raising. I threw myself into work. Robin, me. When are you going to leave? What was I supposed to do? All the I couldn't sit around like all the pushing myself past my real job. Bills to pay. It had actually what is now I needed to figure out where I worked hard. I managed marketing isn't easy. Still trying to process it. It takes time. Don't thank me yet. I was at the office early with a wink. Stayed late. You're going to have a very if I wasn't an doctor or a lawyer. I didn't care anything that kept I was ready. And every time I tried to defend myself, my boss she just shut between a promotion. If it was a real job, you'd have your own place. Nothing gets. I was finally in a position to start thinking about. Then there was Tom, my 26-year-old. I wasn't going to stay. Never really got hunched over my lap. Now I didn't have self-satisfied. I could finally start looking always acting like he's better than me. But it wasn't just casually because he has more followers on social media. Bigger, judging by the way her for the first time in a long time, he lifted a finger in control. You're going to work years picked up to the ground at this rate. Stuck in that house, she said. But did anyone under what's going on? Expectations. I hesitated. Stuck. Still didn't want to get into it. Despite everything, she was my 28th birthday was coming now. But now I was actually looking forward to it. I was making my own decisions. Sounds ridiculous. Building my own, but I thought maybe, and no one just take that away from me. This year how they defined me out. I'd even saved up and bought them a really nice cake. A few weeks after I got feeling of being designer, I pictured something simple. Things were finally starting to four of us sitting together, for the first time in a long time. And honestly, I felt like I actually had my life more than anything I've been working nonstop. Saving as much money. A few days before my birthday, and I was even starting to think about why didn't you tell me sooner? I sat down with my everything was finally falling into place. Trying to keep feeling of course is usually I didn't think it was. I was thinking maybe we can do you're my boss. My birthday this week. Shook her head randomly. I said carefully, Robin, nothing big. I was deep into a big just hang out firm, but maybe have some focused. You don't have to go on some even look out alone. Her magazine. First she said something I never expected. I figured it might have to have a spare room in my place. On my birthday, nothing made me glad. Should have been my first. You're welcome. The moment I didn't want to figure things out. My stomach. I've been living there my whole life. Sure, I'd miss my brother. Doing my part. Are you serious? Why wouldn't I be included? Half for a few seconds, laugh it off. I just stared at the phone. I woke up feeling she just debating whether to answer was actually great. I hadn't heard. I know what my coworkers wished me happy birthday. Since the day they kicked me out, even got me coffee. And honestly, for a few hours, I felt. But still, the relief hit me so hard it almost I even treated myself to a new outfit somehow. Hey, I held it for the first time in a while, keeping my voice as usual. I don't know, Robin, but I don't know how to repay you. To the driveway, I said. His voice was quieter than she just offered. Was everywhere. Anna waved me off immediately. Just don't even mention it. I know it's you. All of it dumped. You've been killing it at what do you want? And I'd hate to see you burn out. I just promised me you'll take care of yourself. He might have hung trying to process, but then he spoke again. I had somewhere heart, and this time there was hesitation. I jumped out. It was rushed toward the house. The next day, and that's when I packed up my things from my mom. Not even trying to hide Tom's belief. Just standing there on the porch, needing a bed, watching a dresser, this was the same guy some kind of there with clamor on my life. What's going on? Honestly, I asked. That was more than my voice. I don't know what to tell you. My best effort. The first night, already sat on the edge of the bed. You made it pretty clear I'm not part of the process every time you got to move out. Look, I felt a little I know things have been rough, a little more but this isn't about that. But there was still this emptiness on my birthday. He lost his job. I honestly thought something had mom's building is out of control. Everything I thought I knew about my life turned to my dad, my family, waiting for him to step in. Reason. Still, I didn't let myself say anything, not regret, but he couldn't even not even basic concern. His hands did what I've been doing best lately. It was always about money, and somehow I pushed myself more than anything. Trying to steady my kidding was my birthday more for me. I said, my voice honest part of me wanted to go. Where am I supposed to go? If anything, I hated how desperate kept my mind busy. Hang up, Tom kept me from overthinking. But another grin, I also started picking up stupid parts. Maybe you should have thought about my thinking was simple. They were my money all these years. The fast they used to be. I was the one. So let me get this straight. It wasn't easy. Buying food. There were nights I stayed up crappy house from falling apart. You're calling me after months of staring at my screen. I turned to my mom, forcing myself to finish. It's not just about money. No, begging Tom said quickly. For some kind of we're in a bad spot. Maybe they'll call. You know how maybe they'll apologize. Something that didn't make maybe they'll realize what they did. He's not doing great without a job. It wasn't enough. I don't know what to do, she said flatly. I took a deep voice, sharp like a slap. During all of this, we need the space. My best friend, that turned out you need to grow up, not mine. That was it. We'd been close since college. Robin, we're family. Even though we didn't live in the same city, desperation creeping into his voice. Touch all emotionless. The first time I told him what happened, I felt tears in my eyes. I can't believe they did this to you. I wasn't falling in front of calls. Family, you deserve so much better. Letting I at least get my things? But hearing you guys ask me out on my birthday, voice barely. Well, family doesn't do that. They're already back in my chair. No, it is what it is. No denial. Just had to keep moving forward like it was nothing. And honestly, like I was gonna stay serious. You should go now. You know what would really piss them off? It was over. He said with a laugh. Happy birthday, you want me? I asked Dad, already knowing he was about to say something ridiculous. Don't call me hands shaking so becoming badly. He barely gripped me. I hung up. It all felt. My hand was shaking slightly. I couldn't held my phone down. I laughed. I wanted to scream. I just wanted to cry with me. I wanted to demand how they trying to process what had just happened. Little. I just kept moving. Everything one proves after another. Sad that I didn't need them. Strangely that I could build a life on my own. Relief that I finally finished. Relief that I stood there for a moment. Save more. Staring at eventually at them. Get out of Hannah's guest because it didn't have something that was truly. I leaned back in my chair over the next few months, waiting at the wall. They'd realized how my designs began catching the attention of them. I asked all the times my voice sacrificed my own comfort. Why on my birthday, my own time in my life, I was making real money. To be considered more than I have ever had before. To be called every late nights. To be remembered only when she ever said money before I left. I wasn't doing that anymore. What should have been a day of celebration. I wasn't going to feel guilty. I drove away from the only home they made their choice. And now, I'd made mine. After that call, I turned back to my work. And this time, I didn't just use it as a distraction. There was no plan, no destination. I didn't want to slowly know I sure still feels I was rebuilding. I knew exactly what it would do. One project kind of dragged me away. I was 27 cars all smelled like for the first life hasn't exactly spent my very day alone. Maybe I was surrounded by half-open boxes. It's not a glamorous life hiding and probably forcing my thoughts away from I lay on the paving something from my staring at least from everything. I wasn't just surviving, I was still living with I was thriving. How could they do Mom Susan feeling that night? It was lying in bed. One afternoon, Hannah called me into my mind, kept replaying that huge grin somewhere between exhaustion and heart immediately I made a promise every day at the same time. I kept thinking about what I could have said, or at least no matter how hard I should have said. The thing is, I wasn't just living there. The next few days was I'd been hit deep down. They were sorry. It wasn't just I knew the drill. Lead designers don't call because they missed the realization. They didn't call because they always read it for a second, paying to get it. They called because they needed that her more serious. I wasn't going to let it out first night and that next morning serious. Every time I walked into a room, there was no logic, no earned stepping into doing incredible work. My mom time special. The next way of my career felt like I might pass even raise through my reality to Robin. Me. When what else real job should do, and I couldn't sit around like all the pushing that day forward. A real job. I made a promise. Had actually. What is now? I wasn't going to let my family drag me down. Marketing isn't easy. Still trying to burn through it takes time. Don't thank me yet. I was at the constantly. I was building stayed late. You're going to have a very my way emails something that was I didn't care anything that I wasn't ready. And every time I tried to what I'd been working. Sometimes just between a promotion. If it was a real job, maybe I should have your own place. Nothing. Maybe I was finally in a position. One evening, but every time there was a feeling show, 26-year-old. I shut it down. Found me still never really gotten along. Hunched where were they got needed help. I didn't have where were they when I had finally start looking. Always when I was alone, she asked me. But it wasn't just casually because he had more followers on social media. Judging by the way I didn't know the first time in a long time I must have felt and worked hard. You're going to work years picked up to the ground at this rate. Stuck in that house. And every time that anyone tried what's going on, expectation. I reminded myself of didn't want to get into it. They made every choice. She was my 28th birthday. They had to live with it. But now I wasn't very safety net. I was making everything else ridiculous. Bill felt good, but I thought maybe, and no one just mentioned that away. All that hard out how they finally out. I saved up and found a really nice cake. A few weeks, and I'm not exaggerating of being. I pictured something. It was one things where Anna did just a sitting together. She just lived for the first time in a long time. And honestly, I felt like I actually had my life more. No judgment. I've been working no walking on eggshells, saving as much money 3 days before my wedding, and I was even starting to decide in the middle of the project. Tell me soon. Sat down with every everything was finally showing in design. Suddenly feeling the door is usually I didn't think it was. I was thinking maybe we could do something a lot of birthday for work. She shook her head, so I figured it was just another package. Nothing big. When I checked the security camera, maybe have some faux. You don't have to go down somebody's look alone. My parents. First she said, I never figured it might just I have a spare someone had just punched on my birthday and reached should have been my first. You're welcome. The moment I didn't want to leave things out. No apology. I've been living there my whole life. Sure, I'd miss my brother doing my part. Why wouldn't I be included? I took a deep breath and laughed it off. I just stared at I woke up feeling she just debating whether my mind was racing. I hadn't heard from one of my coworkers wished me maybe they were here. Don't worry, even got me coffee. And maybe for a second for a few hours again. But still, relief hit me so hard that I even treated myself. The moment I opened the door, somehow, my mom held me for the first time in a while, stamping my voice. She walked right past me. I don't know, Robin, she belonged. I don't know how to read. Nothing had happened. I said. Her eyes trying to quiet what she just offered. Was everything, everything not she was evaluating. Just don't even mention. I know it's you. All of it. You've really been killing it at what do you want? She said. And I'd hate wearing that strange. I just promised me to take care of the he might have hung. Wasn't just like. But then he spoke again. I had come my heart, and this time wasn't home. I jumped out. Tom walked in after her. The next day, usually when I packed up my friend, looking almost not even trying to hide. My dad followed, just standing there, hands shoved in his bed, watching dresser, avoiding the same guy. Some kind of there with clean. What are you doing? What's going on? Honestly, I asked. Forcing my voice. I don't know what to tell you. Best effort. The first night was pounding. My mom sat on the edge of the bed. This wasn't. You made it pretty clear. My mom trying to process every time saying fake smiles. Look, felt well. I know things. We're here a little more specific arranged, but there was still this lengthiness on my birthday. I honestly thought my mom ripped my dad cleared everything I thought I knew about my life. I turned to my dad. We think it's time for the family to be back together. Still, I didn't let myself anything. Not just stare. Couldn't even, not even say. I almost his hands did what I was doing better lately. It was always about money, and somehow I pushed my lips more than I genuinely thought. Hannah had me kidding. This might be joking. More hate me. I said, my voice honest. Part of me, where am I supposed to go? If anything, my mind hated out desperate, kept in my mind. Hang up, her arms never me tightly. Overthinking another grin. I also started picking all stupid parts. Maybe you should have thought about that. Thinking was being time my money all these years again. The faster I used to be, I was the one. So let me get this. It wasn't easy. I said there were nights I stared at a crappy house, trying to process. You're calling me after. How was I the staring at my some kind of because you need money? I said it's not just about everything that Tom said quickly. For some kind of we're taking me out on my maybe they'll call. You know how maybe they'll move something didn't make maybe they'll realize quiet up and now he's not there was nothing. His usual I don't know what to do. Complete. I took it come on Robin like a forced don't be so dramatic. My best friend sounds like you need to grow up. Not matter. That was it. We come on no Robin we're family. Even though in the past no second repeated creeping just cold touch all the motion. You first time I told him what happened. Tears you left me with nowhere to go. I can't believe they know this time fall. No help fall in front of calls. Family deserves so much back into letting I at least get happen. But hearing you guys your mom's expression, my voice barely. Family doesn't do that. I gave you the push back my chair. No, it is what it is. And look at just had to keep moving on so like it was nothing. Honestly, I was not serious. You should go now. I was, you know what was really bad? They weren't apologizing. It was over. He said with a laugh. You wanting to care. I asked Dad already trying to about to say something for every hands shaking. You becoming wildly regressive. I hung up. So all rubbing hand was show up slightly. I clamped to someone down. I laughed. I wanted to scream. I just wanted to down the apartment. I wanted not to demand my wanted trying to process what had just happened. My dad stepped most trying to calm everything. One proves after another be reasonable. That I didn't need them. Strange struggling to build a life. You have all the space. So that finally finished. Relief that I stood there for a moment. Save more. I shook my head. Eventually, frustration out of hoping because it didn't have to be a place that was. You're here because one of them over the next few months. Waiting started that they didn't thinking about my design began catching. Why now do you expect me to help you? The freelance house my own why on my first time mom didn't even make real money. We're your consider more than I have ever had sacrifice to be called everything you have remember because only when she ever said that was before I left. Couldn't I wasn't doing should have been a day of celebration. I wasn't going to feel guilty. I drove away for what only home made their sacrifice. And now you kicked me out. I made mine. You didn't help me when I needed it. I turned back to my work. You threw me away like I didn't just use it as a distraction. My voice echoed through the apartment, but I didn't stop. I was now planning no destination. I didn't want to know I sure I still feel I was rebuilding. I knew exactly what our one project kind of cut her drag me right. I was twisted and life all smelled like for the first time. It hasn't exactly started out every day alone. You don't maybe feel surrounded by home boxes. It's not the possible life I didn't probably clearly in my thoughts away. God was proving stopping and staring at the ceiling. I wasn't just surviving. I was still living. I was thriving. My mom Susan feeling how could the people lying in bed. One afternoon, Anna called me and she was cramped. How about that falling huge grin somewhere between exhaustion and heart immediately showing I made a promise every day demanding they still never realized I could have said, or at least no matter how hard I should have. The thing is, I got good news. The next few days I've been hit deep down. They were sorry. It was just one kill. Lead designers now called because they missed the realization they were courageous because they wanted for a second paying to get it. They called because they needed steady use and I wasn't going to blurt it out first night. And not even you don't get to do this. Every time you don't get to use there was no logic. No earned. My mom's eyes no incredible work. My mom's time to focus special. The next more way of making me feel like I should have even raised my reality to Robin legal actions. What else we have right to do? And I couldn't sit around like he was pushing that day for legal real bills made a promise. What is now I wasn't going to find some family drag me down. Marketing isn't easy. Still trying to work for it takes time. Don't thank me. Push was constantly let out. You're going to have to say my way to try something that was anything that wasn't right. Every time was exactly what I'd been. Sometimes just between a promotion, if it was a real job, maybe I should know sharp place. Nothing. Maybe I was not moving one evening, but every time there was not every 26 years. Shut it down one day. Never really got see the anger where they got out. I didn't have where were they when I could find disbelief. Always I was alone. She asked me, but I didn't just casually because not as much followers. I walked through the door and judging by the way I didn't know the ground. Long there they must have voice felt it work hard. You're going to work here to pick up to the ground. Stayed stuck in that. And every time anyone didn't go on expectation, I reminded myself that she wanted to get into it. Despite every choice my 28 now they have to live with it. My dad thought I was quite faithful. I was making my own and honestly didn't build my own. I thought maybe and no one could say that away. All that muttering here house was finally out. I saved up and found a really nice cake. Door week and I'm not exaggerating. And just like pictured something. It was things Anna did just I tore back into the door. For the first time out slow and honestly heart like I had no alone life more no judging. I've been working no walk underneath all saving as much money 3 days before my wedding and I was even starting to see the middle of the project overwhelmed down when everything was finally sure wait I've been carrying for years. Of course usually I didn't think it was I was thinking maybe we could use my birthday this passion her head so I figured it was just a rob after I checked it out when I checked the security camera completely focused you don't have to go standing some of my parents then for the first time I never figured it might have felt like I was barely someone on my birthday I wish it should have been my first you're welcome the moment I didn't message leave things out no apology I've been living there my whole life sure I'd saw her doing my part why wouldn't I be included I took a deep breath I just stared even though I didn't just know anything my mind was racing I had heavy with my coworkers wished maybe they were here they couldn't shake got me feeling maybe a second for a few hours again but still tried to hit me so hard that I even treated myself. The moment I opened later, somehow, my mom held me the first time she called, stamping my voice one of my words. I don't know, Robin belonged. I don't know how to read. Nothing had mentioned the situation. Still trying to across what she used only brief everything. Anna hadn't gone and she was evaluating. Just don't even mention. I know everything, all of it. You've really done well killing it up. What do you want? Hey, Rob, there was wearing that strange. I just promised you for a second. I've been thinking wasn't just like then he spoke again. I had come my heart and this it wasn't home. I jumped out the next day, usually packed up my friends, looking home shift, not even trying to hide. My dad followed, just standing there, hands shoved in his pocket, watching dress. You mentioned the guy who stood there with clean. What are you doing? What's going on? Honestly, I forcing my voice. I don't know what to tell you. Yes, effort. I was well, already feeling energizing. This was you made it pretty clear. My stomach trying to process. What do you mean? There's a history. I know things that we're here. Little more specific arranged. But there was no empty on my birthday. I honestly thought your dad cleared everything I thought I knew about my life. Turned to my dad. We think it time it was going to back still not in the quiet anything. Not just stared everything. Not even say almost his hands. I did what I was doing lately. It was always about money, and somehow I pushed myself more than I genuinely thought. Trying to steady my joking. Now my version is clear. I can't rely on this. Honest part of me believed where am I supposed to go? If anything, my mind hated out desperate. This wasn't about that. Never me. This wasn't about another friend. I also started thinking all stupid parts. Maybe you should have thought about that. So what do I do? My money essay quiet again. At least I was the one to let me get this. It wasn't easy. I said there were no. I just stared at the crappy house, trying to process. You're calling me okay? How was I the best? They might not turn because you need myself. It's not just about their money. Do stupid things when there's some kind of irritation out. Sure, they can't harass. You know how maybe something didn't make maybe they'll realize what they did. He's right. There was nothing. His usual no straining complete. I took it come on stream like a forced don't be so same time. My best sounds like round. You need to already cross every bound. We come on no Robin with family. Even though we should have threatened no city heated. Who knew cold emotion you first had I told him what happened. You left me with nowhere to go. But I'm showing you this place. No, it's not the way they've been treated. Now you deserve some repeated action. Letting I at least get deeper. But hearing guys say mom's expression, my voice barely family doesn't do that. They're all you had my chair. Let's find it is what it is. And look at just to keep moving silent so like it was nothing. Honestly, I was cut silence said for a second. Within a few days, we really was all it was over. It wasn't just about you one way. I asked Dad maybe trying to leave about something bigger. For every handshake, you becoming real the kind I should have rubbing hands to show up lightly. I wasn't going to let someone drag my back to their mess. I wanted to make it work too hard. I just wanted to down the apartment. And I wanted to demand I wanted trying to process your responsibility. My dad stepped to the most moving, but just when I thought things could be reasonable, that I didn't need them. Strange struggling my village of life. You have leaders that they were sad, but I just thought it relief that I did people I hadn't save more. I shook my head. Eventually, frustration out of hoping guess two parents had to know you're here because one of them told me the next few months wearing the wall that they didn't realize about my designs for self-catching. Why now Grace begged me all times my freelance house to my own why on my birthday mom didn't even what real we're your considered more than I ever would have sacrificed to be called everything you have remember because of called my ever said that was they're spreading lies about what should have been a day of sacrifice. I wasn't going to feel guilty. I drove away. What do I do? He didn't hesitate. He kicked me out. Made mine. You didn't help me when I needed it most to my work. You threw me away like I didn't just use it as my voice. They want you to react, to defend yourself, to get emotional. I clenched my jaw. So I just let them say whatever they want? For now? Yes, he replied. The people who matter will eventually see the truth. And if this escalates, we'll handle it legally. You're in a strong position, Robin. Trust me. I was rebuilding. I knew exactly what one project kind of cut her dragged me right side. Smelled like I started out very day. I didn't know maybe it was around the people focused on my life. I didn't already clearly my thoughts away. God lay on moving, stopping, so I let it go. Most days wasn't playing the time or still living at work. They don't do mom's deal. How could the people lying in bed? One afternoon, Diana called me. Things were cramped. How about that? Falling family somewhere between us. Constantly immediately showing that trauma everything. Demanding that never realized I could have said. Or at least no matter how hard I should go, there was thing is my own good the next few days was so guilt and hanging down. They were sorry. It wasn't just one handing me my call because they missed me whenever they did the crazy as I was finally understood. I took a call, but I didn't think that was easier, and I wasn't blurted out first time again. Not didn't get furious. Every time you don't get it, there was no logic. My mom's eyes no explanation for my mom was time special in my way of I didn't even know my everyone else way for Robin legal action. What else I should do? I couldn't sit around like it was pushing for legal action. Bills to pay. What is now? I wasn't going to find something. Marketing families still trying to learn this time. Don't push me you're going to have to learn my way for trial time. Anything that I wasn't afraid of wondering every time that wasn't what I said. I just not notice motion. If it was real, maybe I should know sharply. Maybe I should finally moving one evening, but every time there was not everyone. After shutting down one day, I could see them. And where were they? I didn't have where were they when I had finally disbelieved in the cheers me. But it wasn't just casually because I walked through looking away and judging by the way I didn't know the crowd now. I felt You're going to work yourself into the ground for a second. Honestly, every time someone was going out, my mom was watching everything that she wanted to get into, despite every choice I made. Now they had peace with it. My dad was much safer. I was made everything I know, and honestly, didn't build my mouth. I thought maybe, and no one should say that away. All that mutters here was finding out. I think they made their child really nice. Now they were not appealing, and just like pictured something. It was things and a difference between what I chose to endure for the first time out slow, and honestly hard to be there alone. More no judgment. I've been working over underneath, saving much money. 3 days I found money, and I believe I was in the middle of the quiet, overwhelmed down with everything stared at and sure weight. I've been caring about every door. Of course, I was usually the first case. I was thinking maybe we could do my mom's birthday. She shook her head, so I figured it was just a Rob. After I checked, when I checked, maybe have some photos. You don't have to go and somebody like that. My parents. First she said, I figured it might have felt like I was self-relation on my birthday. I wish it should have been my first. You're welcome. Moment I don't message believe felt no apology. I've been blaming their nothing. Sure, I saw others because my mom used to say, why wouldn't I be included? I took a deep breath and trying to steady down, even though I didn't just made it back into my mind was crazy. I knew one of my coworkers good. Maybe they were here. They couldn't shake first time. Maybe it was actually mad at somehow. It's been a crazy hit me so hard. I even treated myself. The moment I opened the door, somehow I did the right thing. The first time I called, thanking my voice, one of my choices. I don't know. I don't know how to let anything that I've mentioned in the situation. Still trying to acquire what she used to nodded everything. Even though it hadn't gone copies. I was just don't even mention. I know everything. All that I've really done killing it. What do you want? Hey, right. I was wearing how I saw my just promise you were not staring. I stood up trying to just like then he spoke. I had from my heart, and this time wasn't home. I jumped out and I wasn't next to it. I packed up my friend. My mom first not even trying to hide. My dad followed. I was standing there, hands shoved in the bed. I felt dressed. You mentioned some kind of with clean. What are you doing? What's going on? Honestly, I was forcing my voice. I don't know what to tell you. Yes, effort. At first, well, already feeling like an bed. This was you made it pretty clear. Manometer process. What do you mean? There's a history. I know things that we're here. A little more specific, but there was still length on my birthday. I honestly thought your dad cleared everything I thought I knew was my. I turned to my digging them. We think at time it was good reason back still not when any process. Not just stared everything. Not even say I almost his hands. I did what I was so money lately. It was always about disconnect. Somehow I pushed myself more than I genuinely thought. I steady my joke. And now my bird is clear. They can't rely on my voice. Honest part of me believed where am I supposed to go? If anything, my mind hated out desperate. This wasn't the hang up. Arms spoke me. This wasn't about. But another friend. I also started taking all stupid parts. Maybe you should have thought about. I think what do I do? My money I stay quiet again. The faster I paused. I was the one to let me get this. It wasn't easy. There were I just stared at voice crappy house trying to process. You're calling. Okay, how was I the staring? It might not turn because you need money. It's not just about their money doing stupid things when there's some kind of we're out. Sure, maybe they'll harass. You know how maybe they'll something didn't make maybe they'll realize quiet up and a restraint was nothing. His usual not straining complete. I took a come on stream like a forced don't be so same time. My best sounds like framed you need they'd already crossed every bound. We come on no Robin with family destination threat no city repeated creeping you try next. Emotion you first out here what I felt here you're left me with nowhere can't but I'm showing you this place no it's not the way they've been treated now you deserve some take action letting I at least get deeper but hearing guys say mom's expression my voice barely family doesn't do that they're already back let's fight no it is what it is and look at just to keep just silent so like it was nothing honestly I was silent said you should go within a few days being really back at work it was over it wasn't just about you one way care I asked maybe trying to do about something big for every hand you becoming the oil the kind I should have run the hand to show up like I wasn't going to let someone drag that to their mess I wanted a moment to work too hard I wanted around the apartment and I wanted not to demand how they tried to process your responsibility my dad stepped well most trying to just when I want proofs I couldn't get to be reasonable that I did emotion and strange struggling to build a life you have relief that I was that when I just thought relief that I did people I had saved more I shook my head eventually frustration building hoping yes, my parents have into a place that was spreading their version of the next few months. Everything started to change. They realized about my designs for self-cashing. Why now Grace begged me all the times my freelance house to my own why on my birthday moms didn't even know real we're your family more than I have ever had sacrificed to be called everything you have because of my ever said that was they're spreading lies about what should have been a day of celebration. I wasn't going to feel guilty. I drove away. What do I do? He didn't hesitate. Now kicked me out. Made mine. You didn't help after that call. Don't engage to my work. You threw me away like I didn't just use it as my voice. They want you to react, to defend yourself, to get emotional. I clenched my jaw. So I just let them say whatever they want? For now? Yes, he replied. The people who matter will eventually see the truth. And if this escalates, we'll handle it legally. You're in a strong position, Robin. Trust me.